Hey, what's going on guys, Turtywurty here, and welcome back to another Minecraft modding tutorial for version 1.16. In this tutorial I'm going to be covering how we can go ahead and create our own custom modelled block with rotations, and we will have our voxel shape or hitbox. We will have that rotate with it. So these are pretty simple. The only potentially confusing part may be the actual rotation of the voxel shapes, so because that's a little bit of math, and I'm not going to be explaining that math. It will just be a copy paste, because otherwise this video could be a long time, but I will get to that a little later. So the first thing we need to go ahead and do is create a block. So that is obviously just a public static final, and that'll be a registry object. Now we will need a custom class for this block, so I'm just going to call that I will just call it custom block, since I'm going to be creating an advanced blocks video shortly after this one. And I'm just going to call this custom block, and that will be equal to blocks.register custom block, and that will be a supplier of a new custom block. Come on Eclipse. Alright, we haven't created the class, of course, and that will take in abstract block dot properties dot create, and this will just take in, I'm just going to put the material, not the material color this time, so I will choose material dot wood. Okay, and I'll just put a semicolon so that it can format. And what else do we want to set on here? We can do the harvest tool. So for the harvest tool, I'm just going to put tool type dot axe, and for the harvest level we'll go 1, sure, that'll be stone or gold. And then for the sound, we'll stick with sound type dot wood, and we need to obviously do set requires tool. Okay, so that is the basis of this. Now we can go ahead and create the class. So that is a custom block. Okay, and this is just going to extend block. Actually, no, I'm going to do something slightly different here, just to save some time in the future. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a horizontal, or I'm going to call it base horizontal block, and that extends block. So we just need to rename the file and do that import, add the constructor, and in the constructor we just need to set the default state. So what we can do, actually before we do that, we need to actually create the property, the facing property. So for that it is just a public static final, and I messed that up, of course. Public static final, this will be a direction property. Oh my god, what is happening? Direction property. I'm going to call that horizontal underscore facing, and that will be equal to block state properties dot horizontal facing. because vanilla has already, as you can see in here, nicely created this horizontal facing property for us. And then we can just set the default state. So this dot set default state to this dot state container dot get base state dot with, and then this takes the property that we're setting it to be with for default, so that'll be horizontal facing. And for this we just put in a direction. So by default I want this to just be north facing. That is the general thing to do. There we go. And what is this error here? Why are you angry at me? I thought I already did that. Obviously not. Okay, there we go. Now there are 4 methods we need. So we need a method called mirror. We need rotate. And we need get state for placement. And finally we need fill state container. So let's just remove the comments for all of these, just clean it up a little bit. These auto-generated comments are very annoying. So for the mirror, we simply just do state.rotate, and this will just be this one that takes in the rotation, and this will take in mirror in dot to rotation, and that'll be state dot get horizontal facing. State dot get horizontal facing, just like that. And that is deprecated, so we can go ahead and add the suppress warnings. Okay, in the rotate method we can just return state.with, and that'll be the horizontal facing, and rot, or I think it's direction dot rotate, and that takes in the same thing again, so just state.get horizontal facing. There we go. This is actually deprecated too, so we do need to add it here, or it's not deprecated. It should be deprecated, but if it's not going to say it is, I will take it. So then in the get state for placement, this is what we actually do when the block is placed. This is how we are setting it to be based on the state, or based on the placement that is given to it. So we can just return this.get default state dot with horizontal facing, and then this is what we want to set horizontal facing to. So that will be context dot get placement horizontal facing dot get opposite, since we want it to face the opposite direction, so towards us. If you want it to face the way you are facing, then you don't need this get opposite. So that is that. And then the fill state container, here we just have to add all of the properties that we are putting in our block. So we leave the super there, that's just what we do, and then we call builder.add, and obviously the only property we have is horizontal facing, so that's all we need to put in there. Okay, so that is our base class. That will be used a reasonable amount in the future, so let's close that, and now we can create this custom block class. Oh, that's a package. I mean to create a class, and this will obviously just extend that class we just created. So extends base horizontal block. We need to add the constructor, of course. Okay, now there's not much we need in here. we need, let's see, okay, so there is a field we want to create at the top here, so that will be a protected static final, and that will be a map of direction and voxel shape, and I'm just going to call this shapes. That will be equal to a new hash map. If it wants to load, there we go, and that will obviously take in these. We don't really want to leave that raw, and just import all of that. So java.util.map, net.minecraft.util.direction. okay, and then in the constructor we're going to be calling a method called run calculation, which we don't have yet, but we will create that in a minute. And then we just need a method called get shape, and in here what we just want to do is return shapes.get, and that will take in state.get horizontal facing, which is in the superclass. So that will basically just get the voxel shape for the direction we input. So if you're unaware, a voxel shape is basically the bounding box that you see when you hover over a block. So obviously most blocks are just a normal cube. However, for example, the anvil or the brewing stand or just any different shape blocks generally have a different shaped voxel shape. So you can actually have different voxel shapes. So if I type in shape here, you can have all these different shapes. So you can have a different render shape to the collision shape, a different ray tracing shape, but if you just override get shape, then you are basically doing it for all of those. So that's basically what I want. Now, other than that, we have two methods that we want to get, and these will be in the description. So I'm just going to paste them down here. That is calculate shapes and run calculation. So I'm going to briefly go over this. So what we do is in the constructor we call run calculation, and this loops through all of the different directions and calls this calculate shapes method right here with that direction and the shape. So the shape will obviously be what we put in here. So for now I'm just going to put shape, which is nothing, but we can change that later. And that gets passed into here where we just create a empty voxel shape array, which it will go into in the end. We loop for all of the different boxes in that shape, and then for each box we just create it with a different offset. Basically we just swap it around, and then we put it into the shapes map up here, which is obviously then used in this get shape method. So we might actually want to move this below these two methods, and if you want, what you can do is actually put these methods into the superclass. They are protected, so actually let's do that. Let's go into the superclass and we'll put them in here. We do obviously just need to move this shapes into there as well. So let's just plonk that in. We can put that above or below it, it doesn't really matter. And yeah, that works perfectly fine. So now we just have this, and let's just import the custom block in here. Okay, so that is it for the actual code, other than this part here. So now you need to go ahead and create your model in your program of choice. Now my program of choice is Blockbench, and I do have a tutorial specifically on how Blockbench works, but Blockbench is basically a very good modeling program. So this is a model I created for my 1.15 tutorials. This was actually an item model, which didn't really make any sense. So I don't know what it is, don't even ask. So this is just using my example block texture right there. It's using acacia planks, blue ice, and the anvil texture. And this will create a model perfectly fine. So all we need to do is just add a group, and we need to name this group voxel. Now you need to get this exactly correct. So this is case sensitive, so it needs to be exactly capital V voxel and then capital S shapes. So that is what you need to create, and then all of the cubes that you want to be part of the voxel shape need to go inside of here. Now I'm actually going to take this cube right here, this really small flat one, and I'm going to move that outside of that voxel shapes group. Now the reason is that you don't want a really complex voxel shape. It can lag the game massively if it is too complex. So what is actually better to do, and for the sake of this tutorial I'm not going to do this, however it's actually better to go ahead and do something like this. So as you can see, that is it's weird, but this is just the full size that it is, and you may do that for these first two layers, and then you may for the second layer duplicate that, go up 2 and bring it in to there, and then you may duplicate that again, go up 2, bring it to there. You basically just want to make the voxel shape as simple as possible, and then you'll obviously have this one. So then what you could do instead of all of this, so let's just move this outside of here. Okay, you want to take like this one to this one and this one, and move that in there, and then that will only export those cubes. So let me delete all the others to show you what it will actually be exporting. So this will basically be the shape, and that is what is better to do. Then it's a more simplistic shape, and it won't cause as much lag when you have loads of them placed down, because it really can cause lots of lag, and you do need to be careful about that. However, I'm not going to worry about that too much. I think this shape should be safe per se. Let's just add this back. So where's that? Yeah, that. So just delete that, and I'm not going to export this, but I will export everything else. So let's just plonk it in there. There we go. So that will just export all of these cubes and this here, but not this, since it's not in this voxel shape group. So anything that's not inside of that group will not be exported into the voxel shape. Now I should mention, if you have any other groups in here, you do need to be careful of the naming. So once you have that, that's not actually going to do anything. We need to install a plugin. So if we go to, I think it is, let's see, File, Plugins, and if you go to Available, you should see somewhere in here Mod Utils. If you just hit Install, and you might then want to go Help Developer Reload just in case. And once you've done that, you can see somewhere this mod utils window or little thing, and here it will just tell you about the voxel shapes, how that works exactly. And then once you've done that, you can basically just export the voxel shape right here. So now I should mention there's actually normally a display tab up here, which will be for your display, so how it looks like when you throw it on the ground, or if it's in an item frame and all that different things. You can normally do that up here, but that's not here for me for some reason. I don't know why that's not here. I have heard there is a bug with the GeckoLib plugin, so that might be causing that for me. But anyways, once you've done that, just select the voxel shapes and then hit File, Export, Voxel Shape. And we're using MCP, we're not using yarn, that is for fabric. And if we just confirm, that should bring you a dialog. And if it doesn't bring you a file dialog here, that means you haven't named it voxel shapes. So then we can just put this in, where do we want to put it? I'm just going to put it in my main mod folder here, because we're going to delete that in a moment anyways. And then we can just actually export the block model itself. So export block item model, and we're just going to save this as I'll call it custom block, the same as everything else. So custom block, and that will go in the same place. So that's not going to want to cooperate with me, is it? No, it's not. So source, main, resources, assets, tutorial, models, block, and this will be custom block. Hit save. Then you should have a JSON and a voxel shape, so we can close that. Yeah. Okay, now we have that voxel shape. Let's just refresh our Eclipse so that pops up. There it is. If we open this, we can see a bunch of code, and this contains basically the math for the voxel shape. So you can see I have some really weird values. I built that model with really weird values. I don't know why I did that, but you can just copy this, go into your block class and paste it in here, and that will give you an error. You just need to remove this semicolon and import everything. Just make sure that's fine, and then you need to put .get on the end, or at least if you have the stream.of part, you need a .get. If you don't have the stream.of, then you don't need the .get. And then we can just format that, make it a little bit cleaner. It's still messy. You can, I should mention, you can create a field for this, of course. So for example, what I'm actually going to do, just to make it a little cleaner, I'm going to create a private static final voxel shape, and I'm just going to call that shape, and I'm going to set it equal to that, and we can just put shape in there instead of having this massive block of code in the constructor. I think that's just a lot nicer personally. Obviously you could pass it into the constructor if you wanted to as well. People do that. There's many different ways you can go around doing this, of course. So yeah, that's actually it. We do just need to do the block model, and I'm also going to delete this voxel shape file since we're done with that now. So let's close these. Let's close everything else. Okay, let's go into assets, models, block. Now the first thing to do is to open our block model here and check that this is all correct. So if you are using a vanilla texture, you need to make sure you're saying block slash and then the name of the texture. And if it's an item texture, obviously it would be item slash. If it's from your mod, however, you need to say that it is your mod ID, so mine is tutorial, and then blocks, so my texture is in blocks, If it's in items, then you say items, obviously mine isn't, and then the name of the texture, like that. And you can change the particle here as well. So I am going to change the particle? Yeah. No, I think I'll leave it as acacia planks. And if you just go down to the bottom, so all this is the actual model. Here is the display settings, and here is the group. You can remove this if you want, but I'm going to keep it there, just in order to not break anything, really. So yeah, this is all the translation stuff. Blockbench should generate this for you, if that tab is there, so just make sure you mess around with that. You can always ask in the Blockbench Discord, which will be linked in the description, if you do have any actual Blockbench related issues. And while I'm talking of Discord, my Discord server is in the description, so if you need help, there is tons of people there who can help you with that, so don't be frightened to ask. Now we've done that, let's just do the lang. So we'll go down here, we'll create block.tutorial.custom underscore block. We'll say that is a custom block. There we go. Close that. We need a block state. So let's create a new... Actually, I will link this in the description rather than wasting time writing this out. So we just need a new file here. And this will be obviously the same name we put in our item in it. So custom underscore block .json. And you can just copy this in. I've copied it from Turkey Chemistry, but in the description it will just say tutorial. So I'm just gonna replace this. So tutorial. No, stop. Okay, replace Turkey Chemistry. So you'll need to do this with your own mod ID. So you'll need to replace tutorial with your mod ID. And then obviously I need to replace Baylor with custom underscore block. So what this is doing, this is a very basic block state actually. So what we're doing is we're saying that these are the variants, and it has 4 variants. It has facing north, facing south, facing east, and facing west, and facing east. So if we had another property in here, we would say after that comma test equals true, for example. We may have that for all of these, and then we may copy this. This is just an example, you don't need to do this. And instead of these we say false. So that would be sufficient block states for this. So you need to just make sure if you have multiple properties, you add them in this little section here, otherwise you will get some errors. And we're saying that facing north has this model right here. So that is just our block model, which we're pointing to down here. And then we're saying if it's facing south, it is the same model, but this time it has a rotation on the y-axis of 180 degrees. So it's the opposite. It's facing the opposite direction, basically. We're rotating the model. And if it's facing west, we're rotating it to 70. And if it's facing east, we're just rotating it 90. So obviously you don't have to rotate it on the y. If you have some special block which is rotated in different ways, you could say X is 90 and Z is 270, and that will do some funky rotations. You can even say that Z is 270 and Y is 10. No, you can't do 10. 45. Can you do 45? I don't think so. I'm not sure actually. So you could do something like that, so it has multiple rotations if you wanted. Obviously that's not what this model, not how this model will rotate. It will be like that. There we go. So yeah, that's pretty simple. Obviously you can have this point to different models based on the property. So for example, I could have custom block underscore unlit, and I could have custom block lit if you had a boolean property instead of a direction property. There's tons of different things you can do, is basically what I'm trying to say. They can get very, very complicated if you are doing complicated stuff, I suppose. And vanilla has tons of examples of this. Lots and lots and lots of blocks have their own properties. So, you know, cauldrons, any block that rotates, ladders, stairs, fences, slabs, walls, tons of different things, torches, whatever, all those different things. So yeah, that's the block state. And then we have the item model, which I can just copy my example block and change it to custom block, and obviously just change this as well. Did I set up a loop to do this, to actually register it myself? I don't think I did, so I'm actually also going to have to go into my item init and add that as well. I thought I already added that, but I was probably too lazy. Custom block and custom block. Pretty simple change. Oh, and obviously this as well, otherwise we'll get a duplicate registration error, which we don't want, really. Is that it? I think that's it. Let's go ahead and run the game and find out, I suppose. Okay, so guys, as you can see, I am now in the game. So yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy this tutorial. I do apologise for the recent lack in tutorials. I've been doing a lot of college work, so I haven't really had that time. Hopefully they'll be coming back now. I'm not sure. We'll see. But yeah, if you guys did enjoy this tutorial, please do be sure to smash your face into that like button and subscribe. If you really enjoyed, please do be sure to share it. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.
Welcome to Bottom Gear, mates. Today on Bottom Gear, I drive a silent electric car, Hammond uses a fucking toilet, and James commits arson. Warning, Sean budget does not exceed 23 yen. Good evening, ladies and gents. Today our sponsors are MSC Colgate B450. Check them out. Promo code revving my wife to Noi. Fuck. Today we'll be reviewing one of the Kin vehicle that has about 2.3 GHz revving engine sound. Goes up to the, I don't know, fucking 88mm for every time I find a proper job in this Mexico. Oh mate, we are going to the ass. Do you want anything? Oi love, you posh dickhead, I've got my back. Give me ciggy in it, cheese told bloke, draft a fuck along fish and chip, bloody off. Hammond, you tiny man, where's the Lambo Chevy? Gonna crash into James' car, mate. Hammond, you sodding tech this was my Lamborghini. Call 999, me fucking car's being on fire, mate. Hammond, I have crack addiction, I'm dying. Jeremy, I have to rent the force papers today, I don't know what to do next. Please help me, I can't go. Have petroleum normally. Tell me on medium gear, what happens when the taste exhaust fume? Okay, I'll have a whiff. Air noise. No, Jeremiah, car got bass for health. Shut up. Cock. Shut up, James. The spade is a lot, mate. Weed. Car. Feet. Bottom. Oh my